Well, hello. The US and Germany worked together to finish off the Nord Stream pipeline, all the while trying to hush up the Ukraine on it. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that and where that's going. The FBI is thrown into controversy after a new report comes out and says they may have pushed this whole kidnap Whitmer thing a little bit harder than they may have initially let on. So we'll go into that and see what's going on with that. Texas House Democrats may cost their taxpayers millions with what happened and the fact that they ran off, as another Texas Democrat and several other prominent Democratic operatives have come up with the coup. And let's see, what else are we going to do here today? Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci get into it, and all of their specified fans go back into their corners once again. It's going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to today, and I went to bed last night thinking today was going to be actually kind of a slow day because, I only have tabs over to, like, here when I went to bed last night, and then I woke up this morning and, oh, hey, here's something else on the aggregator that I didn't find. Here's something else on the aggregator that I didn't find. Here's something else on the aggregator I didn't find. So I'm sitting back here trying to put everything else back up onto the stack so we can go and talk about this today. And there's some fun stuff. We're actually going to go through this Huffington Post article too, which I don't use them a lot here, but they're the only people that I saw reporting it. So I don't necessarily buy the fact that this is a real thing, but we're actually going to go through the bill that's in question and see what's actually going on with that as well. Because, if true, I actually have to stand against Texas Republicans on this one. I do, if it's true. But I haven't read the bill, and I actually haven't really read the article either. But we'll sit down and we'll do this together. And we will sit down, we will find all the facts, and we will draw our own conclusions from this. But we'll get there when we get there. That's going to be about halfway down the show. But before we get started, head on over and check out my friends, The Generational Gap, where you can go and see John play the fiddle. Later on today, he's going to be on tonight doing his fiddle practice here, so we can go and check that out. Or the Daily Ignoramus, who will probably be rating, especially with all the stuff that we have up here, we'll probably be rating Stephen Ignoramus at the end of the show, so you can go check that out. You can also go check out The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-rated conservative, The Freckles and Brit Show, and more. So head on over there. Check out all my friends who will be invited to come back to our new channel coming up here in the near future. Definitely go and check them out. They're a great bunch of people. I'm so proud to call them my friends, and I hope to give them better representation in the future, so definitely go and look at them. Looking into the Dow had another day where it took off like a rocket right at the beginning, and then it just kind of held steady. And we see a lot of those too, where it just, you get the futures out of the way and it just shoots up. Sometimes it takes a half an hour to finish shooting up, but it shoots up, and then it just kind of sits there for the rest of the day. I mean, going back and forth, wow, I would say that is a couple hundred points. That's still kind of significant, but still just kind of sitting there, hanging out there compared to what it did at the beginning of the day. But we'll talk a bit about what happened with that yesterday. Looking in at the Bitcoin briefly dipped below 30,000, as I said, and it popped back up. Almost 2,000 points throughout the intraday yesterday here, ending at 31,496 US dollars, which, I kind of predicted that was going to happen too. Usually when you bring it down to a further price like that, people say, oh, hey, my crypto's on sale, and they go back and start buying it again. So they want to get that stuff, but they don't want to pay full price for it either, as I'm sure most of you don't want to pay full price for a specific asset. So once it's down there, they decide they want to get back in on it. And it does seem like it is holding stable. Every time it gets down below 30,000, a bunch of people buy back into it and keep shooting back up. So, and this is not something that's generally controlled by the U.S. government yet. But we will see where this goes as well. And we'll continue to watch this and see if it goes up, if it goes down, or if it stays steady around this 30,000 mark. Looking in at your gas prices. across the Madison area, 279 steady all the way across, still holding steady, which means that has come down over the past week because we did see some 289s, some 285s, and even a couple 290s last week. So that's where we see coming in off of this. Maybe some of the rest of us will get a little bit of relief too. That would be nice. And let's get into the investors, not the big news of the day yet. Let's see what the investors have to say. Starting with IBD, archived, of course, because they didn't bring articles in for me this morning. Reading from IBD, Dow Jones futures rise, tech futures lag after market rally, Netflix, Chipotle are earnings movers. From Ed Carson, Dow Jones futures and S&P 500 futures rose slightly Wednesday morning, while NASDAQ futures turned lower following Tuesday's broad market rally. Treasury yields and crude prices continue to climb, while Bitcoin moved back above 30,000. Netflix headlined key earnings reports late Tuesday, along with Intuitive Surgical and Chipotle Mexican Grill. Netflix earnings missed, while the subscriber guidance was light. Netflix stock fell slightly in pre-market trading. Intuitive Surgical and Chipotle earnings topped, with both stocks rising overnight. Dutch chipmaker giant ASML, that's not ASMR, released mixed quarter 2 results early Wednesday morning, but raised guidance. ASML stock climbed after holding above its 50-day line on Tuesday. The stock market rally rebounded Tuesday with a broad-based gain, though it came on lighter volume. The major indices extended rebounds from Monday's intraday lows. The 10-year Treasury yield, which fell Tuesday morning to fresh 5-month lows, rebounded higher. Crude oil prices rose slightly after plunging on Monday. Leading stocks fared well on Tuesday. DocuSign broke out while Facebook rebounded bullishly from its 50-day and 10-week lines. Marvel Technologies, Shopify, CLTD, and PayPal were among stocks reclaiming official buy points. The video embedded in this article analyzes DocuSign, Marvel, and Facebook stock, as well as reviewing the overall market rally. However, since this was archived, we're not going to be able to see this, unfortunately. ASML, PayPal, and DocuSign are on the IBD leaderboard. Shopify, DocuSign, PayPal, and Marvel are on Swing Trader. ASML and PayPal are on the IBD long-term leaders. ASML and Shopify are on the IBD 50. Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin traded above 31,000 early Wednesday. On Tuesday, Bitcoin fell below 30,000 at the low of a 2-month range from just above 29,000 to roughly 41,000. The crypto has been trending lower within its range since late June. Bitcoin peaked at 64,829.14 in April. Bitcoin and other cryptos have come under pressure amid crackdowns or threats of greater oversight from China, the US, and many other countries. Bitcoin's weakness also may reflect a risk-off mentality as highly valued growth stocks retreated for much of July. A break below 29,000 could signal a new leg down for Bitcoin. On the futures, Dow futures were 0.3% above fair value, off market highs, even with earnings boosts from Coca-Cola, Verizon, and Johnson & Johnson. S&P 500 futures climbed to 0.1%. NASDAQ 100 futures fell 0.2%, reversing slim gains. Crude oil futures rose more than 1%. The 10-year Treasury yield advanced 3 basis points to 1.24%. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So, and I know that the CNBC article that we're about to read here says that the futures are all higher, and it looks like, I mean, this is from 15 hours ago, this article is. This one we're reading came out probably about 20 minutes ago. So it looks like overnight at the beginning of the futures trading, they did look like they were going to keep going back up, but they kind of faltered throughout the night. So a lot of stuff looking here, a lot of stuff coming, but we'll see where it goes. And seeing some of the things drop that we've seen, it's not surprising to me to see the markets falling like that. So we will see where this goes. Let's pop in and see what CNBC has to say. Dow futures are higher as stocks try to keep comeback rally going. Netflix is lower, from Maggie Fitzgerald. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures were higher on Wednesday as equities attempt to continue their rebound from a one-day rout to start the week. Better than expected earnings from Dow members Coke and Johnson & Johnson boosted bullish sentiment for the blue chip average. However, Netflix shares were lower after a disappointing subscriber forecast, weighing on technology shares and keeping the overall market's gains in check. See, the Netflix thing, I don't really completely understand where they keep saying they're gonna keep getting more and more subscribers off this, because at some point, most of us already have Netflix, and it's like the vaccine. Those of us who want Netflix already have it, and those of us who don't want it really aren't going to go out of our way to go get it. It's just one of those things. The programming is a little bit stale, I'm not going to lie. The only reason I still have it at this point is because there was a lot of stuff on my backlog that I still want to sit back and watch. Plus, my sister likes to have it because there's something on there called Coco Melon that she sits her kids in front of, and she said it's like crack for babies, is the way that she put it. So she likes to sit back and watch this thing. So, I mean, for $15 a month, two of us are getting use out of it. But yeah, that's what we see coming back out of that. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures rose by 90 points, or 0.3%. S&P 500 Futures gained 0.1%. NASDAQ 100 Futures shed 0.3%. And that was a little bit reversed by the time we looked at IBD. The Dow tumbled by 725 points on Monday for its worst session in 8 months. Then it rallied nearly 550 points on Tuesday. Futures are indicating a continuation of that rebound as investors again step in to buy the dip. The bond market, specifically the 10-year Treasury. You know, looking back at this, I also have to notice how this is completely different from what we saw over the last 4 years. Because, I mean, I still come out and say we're in correction territory. With what we saw with the 725-point dip from Monday, I still looked at that and said, that's just correction territory. That's nothing to get alarmed about. I mean, continue to watch it and make sure that you're in a place where you're not going to lose money in the market off your retirement or whatever else you're invested in. Absolutely do that and check with your financial advisor. But I see this as a correction. I don't see this as a huge thing. But, I mean, a dip like that under Trump would have been, it's the end, it's the beginning of the end. He's losing everything that he had. He's going to destroy the economy. This is the Trump economy kicking in. Whereas over here, with, come on, man, in the White House, it's, oh, well, just buy the dip. Buy the dip, everybody. The bond market, specifically the 10-year Treasury yield, is driving the volatility of the equity markets on what? No, that's not what's driving the volatility of the equity markets. There's a Delta variant looming on the horizon. The federal government wants to go print $6 trillion more and pump them into the economy without having any GDP to go with them. And nobody knows what's going to happen with inflation year over year. That's what's driving the market volatility, not the bond market. If anything, the bond market should be driving some sort of sensation of, I don't know, knowing what the hell is about to go on here is the best term that I can put off this, because this is not official financial advice. Take this with a grain of salt. But right now, seeing everything that we see, and I read the stocks every day, if you buy a bond right now, you are out of your mind. If you buy a bond right now, I'm sorry, you are fucking stupid. Because nobody knows what's going to happen day over day. Stock, well, assess your level of risk. But a bond, that's just like taking your money and lighting it on fucking fire at this point. On Wednesday, the 10-year yield was bouncing slightly, up 3 basis points to 1.23%. 1 basis point equals 0.01%. The yield dipped to a new 5-month low on Monday before stabilizing on Tuesday. The drop rates is unnerving equity investors by signaling a possible slowing economy due to spreading COVID variants or a possible Federal Reserve mistake. As yields came off their highs in pre-market session, Dow futures gave up some of their gains. Stocks that would benefit most from a continued swift economic reopening were set to bounce again on Wednesday after rebounding from the Monday sell-off in the prior session. Shares of Carnival were up nearly 2%. Las Vegas Sands was up 2%. Energy stocks were higher as oil continued to rebound. After falling below $70 a barrel on Monday, the Energy Select SPDR was up 1% in pre-market trading. Dow member Coca-Cola gave a boost to pre-market sentiment after reporting quarterly revenue that topped pre-pandemic 2019 levels and raising its full-year forecast. Coca-Cola shares gained 2% in pre-market trading. I wonder if that's just because people keep saying, it's not called a soda or pop, it's called a Coke. Fellow Dow member Johnson & Johnson stock rose after the drug maker reported better than expected second quarter earnings and revenue and also raised its 2021 guidance. The shares gained about 1% in pre-market. Verizon shares are up 1.6% in early morning trading after reporting better than expected revenue and subscriber growth and raising its full year outlook. Chipotle, that blows my mind that Chipotle is continually a member on this, but they're continually on this. Chipotle rose 4.5% in pre-market trading as the Mexican fast food chain reported quarterly revenue that surpassed pre-pandemic levels as dine-in customers returned to its restaurants. Netflix reported disappointing third quarter subscriber guidance after the bell on Tuesday. The streaming giant said it expects 3.5 million net subscribers in the third quarter, nearly 2 million below analyst estimates. The company also reported earnings that missed expectations. So a lot of stuff moving. Of course, the Netflix is going down because people could be going back to work. We'll see what happens with that and where that goes. A lot of stuff moving here, and we will see what happens on the markets. But it does look like, well, at least we're going to start pointing down. Let's get into the big news of the morning. Starting with Reuters. U.S. and Germany to vow action on Russia in Nord Stream 2 deal sources. From Andrea Shalal and Simon Lewis. The U.S. and Germany will take action against Russia if it uses the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline to harm Ukraine or other Eastern European countries. According to two sources familiar with a bilateral agreement expected on Wednesday. The agreement, hammered out in recent months by senior U.S. and German officials and first reported by Reuters on Tuesday, will resolve a long-standing dispute over the $11 billion pipeline, now 98% complete, being built under the Baltic Sea to carry gas from Russia's Arctic region to Germany. The U.S. officials insist they continue to oppose the pipeline, but really, they continue to oppose the pipeline. Didn't they just take all the sanctions off the pipeline so it could open up and finish? Because I'm pretty sure that it was sanctioned right up until January of this year to carry gas from Russia's Arctic region to Germany. U.S. officials insist they continue to oppose the pipeline, but said the U.S.-German agreement would mitigate the possibility of Russia using energy as a weapon against Ukraine and other countries in the region. The U.S. worries that Russia could cut off energy supplies to Ukraine or other countries as a form of aggression, and also fears that Ukraine will miss out on transit fees for gas now carried on an existing land-based pipeline. The agreement will avert, for now, the resumption of congressionally mandated sanctions against Nord Stream 2, AG, and its chief executive. President Joe Biden waived those sanctions in May to allow time for both sides to negotiate a way forward. But the Biden admin reserves the right to use sanctions on a case-by-case basis, in line with U.S. law, one source said. Germany also agreed to contribute to a new billion-dollar fund to help Ukraine transition to cleaner sources of energy and improve its energy security, said one of the sources. Details about the funding were not immediately available, but the money is likely to come from private sources backed with government guarantees, one of the sources said. Bloomberg reported earlier that Germany would provide an initial investment of $175 million. Biden and Merkel failed to reach an agreement on the pipeline when they met last week, but they agreed Moscow must not be allowed to use energy as a weapon against its neighbors. Then why are you buying their energy? If you think this is a possibility, then why are you buying their energy? This is something that's just blown my mind for a long time. It's not just the Nord Stream 2. It's our policy of using Middle Eastern oil in this country as well. Is we buy oil from Iran, or we did at one point. Iran chanced death to America. Saudi Arabia, up until recently, was not a friend of this country, and we continued to buy oil from them. Iraq, until recently, was not a friend of this country, and yet we continue to buy oil from them. I don't understand the idea of buying oil from countries that dislike you, or, as they're talking about here, could use it as a weapon against a country where the main country is trying to annex again. that's trying to rebuild the Soviet Union. You can punish them with your marks. Or do they use marks anymore? Is it just euros? You can punish them with your euros over there. Just say, no, we won't be buying your oil no more. That was a terrible German accent, and I'm ashamed of that. At the time, Merkel said Germany had a number of instruments at its disposal, including the possibility of imposing sanctions through the EU to respond to Russia if needed. Officials from both countries have continued working out the details in recent days, and senior State Department official Derek Chollet visited Ukraine on Tuesday to discuss the deal. State Department spokesman Ned Price told reporters on Tuesday that Washington still viewed the pipeline as a bad deal for Germany and Europe, but decided that sanctions were unlikely to halt the project and focused instead on addressing Russia's potential use of energy as a weapon. We continue to oppose the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. We view it as a Kremlin geopolitical project that is intended to expand Russia's influence over Europe's energy resources and to circumvent Ukraine. Price declined to address the reported agreement, but said that Germany had put forward useful proposals and they had made progress on the shared goal of ensuring that Russia cannot weaponize energy flows. Biden faces pressure from Congress to block the pipeline. So, well, I guess we'll see. And, that was one of the first things that I pointed out when the sanctions got lifted is this guy in Russia's pocket? Are we going to see somebody that's actually doing the bidding of Russia because Russia told him to do so? Because that was what I was promised what was happening for 4 years. And this, also coming from a president who had heavy sanctions on Russia for the pipeline, which could have turned their country around economically. I don't know where this goes. I admit that some of my foreign policy is a little bit rusty off of this, but it really does seem like they're trying to cater to Russia on this, and Germany is just turning over and rolling over. But we'll watch what happens here. Let's grab one from Politico. And I thought this was interesting. And I do have a Daily Wire article going on here talking about what Cruz had to say. But Politico reports U.S. urges Ukraine to stay quiet on Russia pipeline. This is from Betsy Woodruff Swan, Alexander Ward, and Andrew Desiderio. In the midst of tense negotiations with Berlin over a controversial Russia to Germany pipeline, the Biden admin is asking a friendly country to stay quiet about its vociferous operation, and Ukraine is not happy. U.S. officials have signaled that they've given up on stopping the project, known as the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and are now scrambling to contain the damage by striking a grand bargain with Germany. At the same time, admin officials have quietly urged their Ukrainian counterparts to withhold criticism of a forthcoming agreement with Germany involving the pipeline, according to 4 people with knowledge of the conversations. The U.S. officials have indicated that going public with opposition to the forthcoming agreement could damage the Washington-Kiev bilateral relationship, but those sources said the officials have also urged Ukrainians not to discuss the U.S. and Germany's potential plans with Congress. Wow, that sounds really, really shifty to me. A senior admin official disputed this reporting, noting that the situation is more nuanced than that, but declined to share further details on U.S. officials' talks with their Ukrainian counterparts. American negotiators and diplomats have signaled that they have given up on blocking the completion of the pipeline known as Nord Stream 2, which will ship cheap natural gas from Russia to Germany and stands to be a boon for Moscow. In the meantime, they have been trying to mollify a key regional partner in the Ukraine, which stands to lose the most from the pipeline's ultimate completion, and rebuild the frayed U.S. relationship with Germany, which supports the pipeline. President Biden and German Chancellor Angela Merkel did not reach an agreement on how to handle the matter. When she visited Washington last week, Reuters reported, Biden said after meeting with her that good friends can disagree. In ongoing talks with Germany, U.S. officials are trying to limit the risks the pipeline will present to Ukraine and to European energy security, the official told Politico. American and German officials are in talks about pipeline and its impacts on Ukraine. That official added they're looking for ways to reduce the damage it does to the young democracy. Antony Blinken said last month that the pipeline's completion is a fait accompli. The senior administration official said the U.S. has concluded that sanctions will not be able to block the pipeline's completion. The admin's position is at odds with much of Congress and with the Ukrainian government and other Eastern European allies, which have long held that U.S. intervention can still block the completion of the pipeline, which is nearly completed. The four people familiar with the situation, including a congressional source with direct knowledge, described the dynamics on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive matters. Details began circulating around Capitol Hill on Monday. So, a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of stuff to watch, and a lot of stuff to think about when we see the fact that this is going. It's suspicious as fuck to me that they're telling Ukraine to stay quiet off of this, and they're being completely open about this, especially given what we saw back in the beginning of 2020 with the first impeachment. I do think that there is a little bit of retaliatory bargaining going on here. It does seem like that. Because it seems like, Vladimir Zelensky was willing to come and have the talk with former President Trump about Hunter Biden, and now with Joe, or the people who are pulling Joe's strings, who probably had their hands in the same cookie jar that Joe did at the same time, now at the reins here, I think there might be something retaliatory going on here. But, they come out and say, oh no, we're working with Germany to make sure that the damage is mitigated to the Ukraine. And I can still look at this and I can call some bullshit on this. But, once again, it's something to watch. It's something to see where we go, and we will see what happens with that. Let's grab this one from the Daily Wire, talking about what Ted Cruz has to say about this. Now they're spooning. Cruz unloads on Biden for U.S.-German deal over Russian pipeline. From Ryan Saavedra. Ted Cruz unloaded on Democratic President Joe Biden on Tuesday following reports that the Biden admin has worked out a deal with Germany to allow the completion of Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline. The Biden admin will set aside Washington's long-standing opposition to the pipeline, Nord Stream 2, in a reversal of U.S. policy, ending years of speculation over the fate of the project, which has come to dominate European energy sector forecasts. The Wall Street Journal reported Germany, under the agreement, will agree to assist Ukraine in energy-related projects and diplomacy. Former President Trump worked aggressively to stop the pipeline from being completed because it would be a major strategic win for Russia. Biden previously waived sanctions against the company who's building the pipeline and waived sanctions against its CEO, which sparked intense backlash from lawmakers. Cruz responded to the news by saying that Biden was defying U.S. law and has surrendered to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Do we have video? We don't have video. All right. If the reports and details of a deal are accurate, this will be a generational geopolitical win for Putin and a catastrophe for the United States and our allies, Cruz said. President Biden is defying U.S. law and has utterly surrendered to Putin. Decades from now, Russian dictators will still be reaping billions from Biden's gift, and Europe will still be subject to Russian energy blackmail. We always knew Biden was in bed with Putin. Now they're spooning, Cruz added. President Joe Biden. Is this still Cruz? No, this is Reuters. President Biden and German Chancellor Angela Merkel failed to settle their differences over this undersea pipeline when they met last week, but agreed Moscow must not be allowed to use energy as a weapon against its neighbors, Reuters reported. In addition to assurances by Germany about its willingness to reverse flow gas to Ukraine if Russia ever cuts off supplies to Eastern Europe, the sources said the agreement would include a pledge by both countries to invest in Ukraine's energy transformation, energy efficiency, and energy security. A report from May alleged that a lobbyist for the foreign partners of Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline gave thousands of dollars to President Biden's campaign and a pro-Biden super PAC. So, a lot of stuff going on with this, and, geopolitics are really, really messy at this point, and, pushing the Ukraine to the side and saying, just shut up and let this happen. I'm sus. I really am. And I do have to wonder what the intentions are of the Biden admin. Wouldn't it be funny if we actually got into that situation where we talked about before, where it's, accuse your enemies of doing what it is that you're doing? I don't know. We'll see. We will see where this goes. I'm sure this is going to come up again. Let's get into some other news here. Let's talk about the FBI plot to kidnap Whitmer, starting with Fox 2 out of Detroit. FBI agent who testified about Whitmer kidnapping plot faces assault charges. Coming to Fox 2 via the Associated Press. An FBI agent who testified about an alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is facing an assault charge according to court records. Richard Trask appeared in a Kalamazoo court on Monday and was released online. Was released. He wasn't released online. He was actually released. Online records show the alleged offense occurred on Sunday. The court file doesn't list a defense attorney yet, according to the clerk's office. In accordance with FBI policy, the incident is subject to internal review, and I can't comment further on this time, Detroit FBI spokeswoman Mara Schneider said. Trask has provided details in federal court about an alleged scheme to kidnap Whitmer in retaliation for her orders last year meant to slow the spread of the coronavirus. One man has pleaded guilty, and roughly a dozen others are awaiting trial. It's the last thing you want in a major case like this, said Andy Arena, former head of the FBI office in Detroit. Anytime you give the defense any ammunition, it's not good. Trask doesn't carry a gun while he's out on bond, the Detroit News reported. If you can't carry a weapon, then you're not going to work as a street agent, Arena told the newspaper. He's going to be suspended or put on restricted duty. So, and we don't know what the assault charge is. We don't know what it's for, but there are some other fishy things going on with this story, of course. Reading from The Hill. Men accused of Whitmer kidnapping plot say FBI set them up. Report from Lexi Lonis. The men who are accused of attempting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer are saying the FBI set them up, according to court filings, evidence, and dozens of interviews seen by BuzzFeed News. There were at least 12 FBI informants involved in the investigation into the group for months while they were allegedly planning to kidnap the government. Dude, how big was this group? If 12 of them were FBI informants, how big was this group of people? Because I thought it was like 6 people. If I remember correctly. The FBI's involvement was much bigger than previously known, as the agency was involved when the plot began and had informants allegedly encouraging the group to further its plans. BuzzFeed News reported. An Iraq War veteran informant rose to second in command of the group and paid. What? An informant rose to second in command of the group? Dude, this was a fucking setup. And paid for travel for members of the kidnapping plot to meet together. He also told members to work together and here, have some free money. Let's go talk about what we want to do to Gretchen Whitmer. I'm totally not glowing at all. Dude, this throws a lot of shit into question. And also keep in mind, this is the agency that is investigating the Capitol Selfie Fest right now. He also told members to work together and help the person in charge advance the plan. So far, one defendant has accused the agency of entrapment. No, this isn't an accusation of entrapment. If the guy's second in command, this is full-on entrapment. No. Tell me what you want to do to Governor Whitmer. It's okay. I'm safe. Just talk right into my chest here, please. When you say this. This dude is fucking glowing. Holy shit. And even led military-style trainings of the plot. The Hill is trying to spin this so hard. It's just an accusation. I mean, still innocent until proven guilty, but I mean, if these eyewitness accounts are in any way accurate, then this is big. If any of this is in any way accurate, this is huge. And I also have to start, because I talked about this yesterday with Rebel with a Cause. Let me go see if I can find that tweet, because we'll bring this up, because that has something else to do. And we talk about this with, what the fuck am I saying? The zip tie guy from the Capitol Selfie Fest. I don't know. There's been a lot of activity on my account. I might not be able to find this in a reasonable amount of time. But let me go see if I can find that, because, yeah, that's another one, because that dude is fucking glowing. Okay, maybe I can't. Yeah, this one here. Let's bring this over here for just a second. Because it was the same thing. We talked about this. When we talked about the Black Rifle Coffee thing the other day, Rebel with a Cause asked, what did Black Rifle Coffee do? And I said they threw Rittenhouse under the bus, which, I mean, we all knew that. That was the reason I said I was never going to buy from them again, back when that happened. I said, then they denounced the Capitol Selfie Fest after the one human being who wore a mask and couldn't be identified by the FBI was carrying zip ties and a BRC flag, Black Rifle Coffee flag. And I said, I think the zip tie dude was a glowing one. And if they went so far as to try to incite these people to go and, let's go kidnap Governor Whitmer, aren't you excited to go do that? And then they've got this one guy out of all the 500 other people that they can instantly identify by his phone records. They've got this one guy they can't ID who happens to have a bunch of zip ties and a Black Rifle Coffee flag. What else are they doing? What else are they entrapping at this point? The FBI is not to be trusted at this point. This would not be the first time the FBI has been accused of entrapment, as one group that was allegedly planning to murder police officers was acquitted after claiming the FBI led the charge in the plan, according to the outlet. There are mixed feelings regarding informants, as some say they can help stop domestic terrorists, but have in the past falsified evidence, committed murder, and entrapped innocent people, BuzzFeed News reported. The group allegedly plotted to kidnap the governor because they were unhappy with the coronavirus restrictions she put into place. No, it sounds like 12 FBI agents came in, found some people who were sitting in a basement together, pissed off about the restrictions, and said, hey, fellow extremists, would you like to go start a revolution in Michigan? And hey, maybe we can take the governor over to Wisconsin. You want to do that, don't you? This just reeks of entrapment right from the top. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire to finish this out. FBI thrown into controversy over damning new report about their involvement in Whitmer kidnapping plot. I'm just curious about this because I want to see what's in this article that isn't in the Hill, because, I mean, just looking at the headline and what we saw in that one, that does seem like the Hill was twisting to continue to say that the Michigan militia members are the evil people. The FBI was thrown into controversy on Tuesday afternoon following an explosive report that was published by BuzzFeed News that suggested that the alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer may have never even happened if not for the actions that FBI informants and undercover agents had in spurring suspects into action in what many critics called entrapment. The FBI reportedly relied on an Iraq war vet to provide information to the Bureau about the actions of a group called Wolverine Watchmen. The informant, named Dan, allegedly became alarmed by messages that he saw being shared between members in the group after talking to a police buddy of his was put in touch with the FBI. Dan allegedly wore a wire for half a year, collecting hundreds of hours of evidence against members of the group. Dan reportedly was paid $54,793.95, which included reimbursements for his work over the span of over 6 months, which was considerably more than most families in Dan's part of Michigan bring home in a year. Yeah, that is a bunch of money. The FBI also reported they used at least a dozen informants, including some from other states, and also deployed undercover agents to assist in the process of setting the trap for the suspects. Yes, Wolverine Watchman, just tell us how much you hate Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Wouldn't you love to pull her up out of her posh home? The report documents how a longtime government informant from Wisconsin set up meetings across the U.S. where many of the suspects met for the first time and where initial plans were developed. The informant even provided incentives for people to come, like food and hotel rooms. Come over here, let's talk, where we can be audibly heard. I'm buying. The report noted that Dan was told by the FBI that he could lie to members of the group and that he just had to be honest with the FBI and couldn't engage in committing any crimes. The report further noted that entrapment is a big no-no for law enforcement officials, but that confidential informants enjoy tremendous leeway to get the goods. Dan reportedly taught the accused men military tactics. What? Oh, I know we saw this in the last article, but still, I mean, you're not seeing suspicion off of this. This isn't a problem with somebody else. Hey, here's this bunch of rednecks from Michigan who are disgruntled by the governor, and I've just convinced them that they actually do want to go kidnap the governor and hold her responsible. And I want to teach them military tactics. And allegedly prodded members of the group into moving forward with their plan, including while they scouted out a cabin belonging to the governor where they planned to kidnap her. The report said that at the Michigan Capitol, the men met 37-year-old Adam Fox, who was portrayed by the report as being the most aggressive member of the group, up to the point where he made other members uncomfortable with his alleged calls for violence, and they asked that he not be included in the events, but Dan, the FBI informant, kept Fox around because he was the second in command, despite objects from the accused men. The report suggested that Fox essentially, overnight, upon the news that Whitmer was closing down gyms in the state in response to the pandemic, an outlet that Fox used to deal with life stress. Yeah, this is a problem. This is a big problem for the FBI. And once again, this is a big problem because this is the same agency that is investigating the Capitol Selfie Fest, where, I'm sorry, a lot of the people out here were glowing. I don't trust anything that's coming out of the FBI right now, including the Capitol Selfie Fest, because of shit like this. But still, people are going to come out here and eat it up and say, "Oh, well, see just how easy these Trumpers could be they could be made extremists. They're a part of a cult, and all they want to do is take over the government." Yeah, yo, this is fucked. Because you know that this was something that was used during the campaign trail. In addition to the Capitol Selfie Fest up on top of this. Which I know that wasn't on the campaign trail, but still, that's something that they're still trying to use to come out and say, Donald Trump needs to be dragged out of Mar-a-Lago and be arrested because he incited an insurrection. But, yeah. Dude, this is fucking whack, yo. Alright, let's grab one. Speaking of members of Congress, from Fox News, Swalwell spent thousands of campaign dollars on booze and limo services, $20,000 at a hotel where his wife worked. I'm pretty sure that last part is against the law. The other two are kind of hazy because, you're trying to court voters and everything. I would still probably call that against the law, but that's a little bit hazy. But I'm pretty sure that this last one here, that I think that's against the law. This is from Houston Keene. Prominent Democratic Rep Eric Swalwell of California appears to have spent tens of thousands of campaign dollars on booze and limousine services, as well as over $20,000 at the luxury hotel where his wife used to work. The tens of thousands of campaign dollars include limo services, luxury hotels, high-end restaurants, and alcohol delivery services over the course of the second quarter, according to FEC records reviewed by Fox News. The California congressman appears to have been driven in style with his FEC records, showing the campaign spending over $10,000 in 26 rides from various limo and luxury car services. Swalwell's campaign also spent $26,000 on luxury hotels. More than $20,000 of the campaign funds that were spent at luxury hotels went to Ritz-Carlton, Half Moon Bay, where Swalwell's wife was the director of sales of the hotel, according to her LinkedIn profile, until 2019. So, was she working there at the time when he was doing this? I'm curious. Or is she getting a kickback from it? I mean, if she wasn't working there at the time, that might fall back into a gray area once again. Unless, of course, they came back and said, okay, well, you brought Swalwell here to spend all this money. Here's your cut. The California congressman dropped $566 on food and beverage through the alcohol delivery service Drizzly in 9 separate orders, ranging from $579 to $124.86. Additionally, Swalwell spent $1,151 on refreshment from 7 trips to Capitol Hill Wine and Spirits, a liquor store local to the House side of the U.S. Capitol, and almost $4,400 at 2 California wineries on the same day for catering and refreshments. While the payments to the wineries could have come from a campaign event, it's not clear that the 7 charges at the Capitol Hill liquor store and 9 Drizzly charges were campaign related. Yeah, especially if it's $579. Dude, what did you get for $579 from a liquor store on one charge? You're from Napa Valley. I know you didn't get wine for that price. What would you just come in and say, I need a 6-pack of your cheapest beer possible? But I do have to point out to Fox News, you guys better be careful reporting on him because, the government has nukes. And they're not afraid to use them. The FEC records revealed that California Democrats' campaign spent over $7,000 at luxury restaurants and steakhouses in D.C. In addition, Swalwell appears to have sat down for 13 in-person meals at Charlie Palmer Steak, Oku Sushi, STK Steakhouse, and the downtown New York City location, and other high-end eateries. Well, that's a little bit sus. Why are you wining and dining people in New York if you're a Northern California rep? Six expenditures listed as catering on the FEC website showed Swalwell spent thousands of dollars on food at luxury restaurants, but those expenditures could also come from campaign events held at the Capitol. Additionally, in a filing listed under supporter appreciation, Swalwell spent $205 on the website The Knot, where people list their wedding registries. Earlier this month, it was reported that Swalwell, along with his wife and other members of Congress, traveled to Qatar on an all-expenses-paid trip bankrolled by the U.S.-Qatar Business Council, which is dedicated exclusively to enhancing bilateral business relationships between U.S. and Qatar. Swalwell's campaign did not immediately respond to Fox News' request for comment on the expenditures. As bad as this is, I'm actually not surprised. And I'm pretty sure if we start cracking open other campaigns on both sides, we're going to find a lot more of this shit. A lot of this is whining and dining potential donors saying, hey, I'm going to take you here for this nice steak dinner, and you're just going to accidentally drop $50 million into my campaign. But we'll find something to launder it through. You'll drop it into ActBlue, and they'll give it into my campaign because I bought you this. There's a lot of that's going on here. There is, and it's not just Swalwell. Politics is a very dirty business. So I'm not surprised. I'm a little surprised it came out at this point, but yeah, I'm pretty sure if we start cracking open other FEC records, we're going to find a lot more of this shit. All right, let's grab one from News Channel 21, KTVZ. I've got CNN News Source as the author for this. First on CNN, Ilhan Omar leads group calling for special envoy to combat Islamophobia. Looks like Stephanie Reynolds is the photographer for this, but I still don't have... Oh, there's the author, Annie Grayer of CNN. So I guess this isn't a local story after all. But let's read on. Democratic Rep. Ilhan Omar is leading the group of Democratic lawmakers in calling on Secretary of State Anthony Blinken to create a special envoy to combat Islamophobia as instances of anti-Muslim hate crimes continue to rise worldwide. Okay, clean your own house first, because there's plenty of them going on in your district proper. Let the rest of the world worry about the rest of the world. Clean your house first. Omar, one of 3 Muslims serving in Congress, is sending a letter to Blinken to make the case for why the U.S. needs to play a heightened role in monitoring Islamophobic incidents around the world, but not anti-Semitic incidents. Some people did something. The group also calls on Blinken to include state-sponsored Islamophobic violence in next year's annual human rights reports. The group is looking for Blinken to establish a special envoy that mirrors what the Department of State created to investigate and fight anti-Semitism. Which I don't really think that we need to be investigating on a world stage either, to be completely honest. Clean our own house first, once again. Let the rest of the world worry about the rest of the world. As part of our commitment to international religious freedom and human rights, we must recognize Islamophobia as a pattern that is repeating in nearly every corner of the globe. The lawmaker writes in a letter, "It is past the time for the U.S. to firmly stand in favor of religious freedom for all, and to give global problem of Islamophobia the attention and prioritization it deserves." Omar, a Minnesota Democrat, is co-leading the letter with Democratic Representative Jan Schakowsky of Illinois, and joined by 23 other Democrats, including Karen Bass of California, Jim McGovern of Mass, Rashida Tlaib of Michigan, Adam Smith of Washington, and Sarah Jacobs of California. The group points to state actors and a rising number of individuals connected to larger white supremacist networks as perpetrators of Islamophobia. The letter to Blinken cites a 2021 annual report from the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom that found 3 countries, China, India, and Burma, had patterns of mistreatment and human rights violations against their entire Muslim populations or particular sects of Muslims. Yeah, I don't know about India or Burma, but I mean, we all know about the Uyghurs and the enslavement of Uyghurs, and yet people continue to support sending and buying their cheap fucking Chinese shit. The request from lawmakers to Blinken comes just as the Council on American Islamic Relations came out with a report that found an uptick in anti-Muslim hate crimes, particularly coinciding with the heightened conflict between Israel and Gaza in May. A source familiar with the letter sent to Blinken told CNN that the findings from CARE's report played a significant role in getting lawmakers to make this request now. Omar cited an uptick in anti-Muslim hate as part of her reasoning for calling for the position. So, yeah, they want to go and deal with what else is going on in the world. They want to be the world savior and the world power. And they will complain about white people being colonialists at the same fucking breath. There you go. Clean your own house first. And I'm not saying we're perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We do need to look at some things that are happening. And those 12 people down in Alabama that I love to cite that are fucking their cousins and saying, "I hate them there black people. Boy, don't I hate them there black people. And we got to get a 13th person to come in here and tell us how much he hates them there black people too." All right, let's grab one from Axios. The Scoop. White House official Pelosi aides test positive for COVID-19. From Hans Nichols. A White House official and staff member for House Speaker Pelosi both tested positive for the pinko fucking pox after attending the same reception last week, officials confirmed to Axios. While both individuals are vaccinated and mildly symptomatic, they illustrate how Americans inoculated against the coronavirus can still contract and potentially unknowingly transmit the virus, even at the highest levels of the nation's government. We know there will be breakthrough cases, but as this incident shows, cases in vaccinated individuals are typically mild, a White House official told Axios. So are most of the other cases in the fucking universe. The Pelosi staffer helped usher a delegation of Democratic Texas lawmakers around the Capitol last week. 6 of those lawmakers who flew to Washington to block the Texas legislature from changing the state's voting laws have since tested positive. It still blows my mind that they're actually testing for this. It really does. It completely blows my mind, because we got vaccinated. We should be able to walk around without masks, and if you have the jab, you should be able to walk around without your mask, and everything's going to be fine. So why get tested? You got the fucking jab. Unless something like this was planned to come out and tell you that, oh no, the pinko pox is still here. Oh no, we have to extend unemployment. And And we have to extend the renter thing. We have to extend all this and shut everything down until every last person has to depend on the government. I don't trust a fucking word of this. I really don't. Both the staffer and the White House official were at the same rooftop reception at the Eaton, D.C. hotel last Wednesday night. The White House official has not had any recent direct contact with President Biden. The Pelosi aide did not have any contact with the speaker since that person's exposure. What they're saying. Yesterday, a fully vaccinated White House official tested positive for the pinko fucking pox off campus. A White House official told Axios in a statement. In accordance with our rigorous COVID-19 protocols, the official remains off campus as they wait for a confirmatory PCR test. The White House Medical Unit has conducted contact tracing interviews and determined no close contacts among White House principals and staff. The individual has mild symptoms. The official added the White House is prepared for breakthrough cases with regular testing. This is another reminder of the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines against severe illnesses or hospitalizations. We wish our colleague a speedy recovery. Press Secretary and red-haired bobblehead Jen Psaki later confirmed during a press briefing that the official tested positive on Tuesday. She added that the person will remain off campus as they wait for a confirmatory PCR test. So, there you go. It's breaking through. It's breaking through. The vaccine is ineffective. Lock down. Stay in your home. Don't worry about unemployment. The government will take care of you. I don't know. I ain't getting it. And as was pointed out yesterday, too, by the way, by the guy who came in, and well, you would risk the 2 days of downtime instead of dying of the commie coup. I'm probably not going to die of the commie coup. I'm probably not. And from the sounds of it, even if I get whatever it is that they put in your arm, I'm still going to get it. And here's the most important part. This is the most important part. Before Susan bans me, before I get kicked off YouTube for this, for what I just said a couple minutes ago, I will not look down on you if you think that you need to go get the vaccine. It's your body, your choice. If you want to go and get the vaccine, get the vaccine. I don't want it. I'm not going to stop you from getting it, but I don't want the goddamn thing. Because the risk assessment, the couple days of downtime, the possible heart condition, the possible neurological condition, and the possibility that I still get the coof doesn't outweigh the benefits from getting the vaccine right now. There's more con than pro in my specific position. Your specific position might lead you a different risk assessment. But my specific position has more con than pro. So I'm not going to get it. End of story. From the New York Post, 6th Democratic test positive for the pinko fucking pox after fleeing state to block the GOP voting bill. From Kenneth Garger. Well, I'm sure they all have it at this point. A 6th Texas Democrat who traveled to Washington, D.C. in an effort to prevent a vote on a GOP-backed voting bill has tested positive for the pinko pox. A new report said the unidentified state lawmaker, who was among a group of Democrats who flew to the nation's capital on a private jet last week, is self-isolating, a spokeswoman for the Texas House Democrats told NBC News. Over the weekend, 5 other state Democratic lawmakers tested positive for the coof. The group made the trip to D.C. to press Congress to pass federal election reform legislation to go get overturned by the courts, and then nothing else is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we're all done with this here. Yeah, we know with that. There's number 6 off of this. But the more important part of this, not necessarily who all got the coof, who's going to get the jab, who's going to get whatever. Reading from The Blaze, Texas House Democrats' political stunt to block legislation will cost over $1 million. But will taxpayers be on the hook? That's the question we need answered right now. This is from Chris Enlow. The political stunt in which Texas House Democrats embarked last week will ultimately cost more than $1 million. More than 50 Democrats elected to represent Texans in their state house fled to the Lone Star State last Monday to deny the state house the required quorum of 2/3 of lawmakers to present to conduct business. The move blocked legislation that Democrats opposed, including one bill that Texas Republicans say was meant to bolster election security, but Democrats claimed would restrict voting rights. No, they claimed that it was going to deny black people the right to vote. Don't you know? That's what Republicans want. They want us to be back in Jim Crow and the 3/5 compromise. Texas Democrats fled to D.C. on private planes and plan to stay in the nation's capital until August 7th, the date when a legislative special session is meant to conclude. Texas State Rep Armando Wall told NBC News the trip will have cost approximately $1.5 million when it's said and done. Wall said the pair of private charter jets the majority of legislators took to Washington cost more than $100,000, while housing, food, and other transportation costs will make up the bulk of the expenses, NBC News reported. Those jets were reportedly financed by a wire transfer from the Texas House Democratic Caucus. Members and staffers who made the trip have been paying for many of their expenses on personal credit cards, and one member reportedly paid for the hotel room where the members are staying with his American Express card, according to NBC News. Other caucuses within the Texas House Democrats have also picked up some expenses. Legislators expect to be reimbursed for their personal expenses, but who will be paying for that? The caucus says no taxpayer dollars are being spent on the trip. Instead, the group is fundraising to cover the costs. Wall told NBC News the caucus has raised over about $250,000 where members are fielding donations to. Powered by People, a voting rights organization started by Beto O'Rourke, has also raised at least $500,000 for the trip. So it looks like they're halfway there to getting it covered in the costs, which, I mean, is good because then it's not off the taxpayer dime. But still, I mean, there you go. Going off and spending a bunch of money instead of going in and trying to debate this. Why not come back and try to at least have the debate, have the discussion, air your grievances to people who are your colleagues? Not go air your grievances to NBC News and members of Congress and the president and vice president, where you suddenly and mysteriously have the coof. But that's where we go from there. This is an interesting one, and I wanted to talk about this, and I've actually got the bill here, but I mean, if true, and it was only reported by the Huffington Post, so I have doubts, press X to doubt, but we're actually going to go through the legislation. Texas Senate bill drops teaching requirements that Ku Klux Klan is morally wrong. From Mary Pappenfuss. In a new political law in Texas, the Republican-dominated state Senate has passed a bill to eliminate a requirement that public schools teach that the Ku Klux Klan and its white supremacist campaign of terror are morally wrong. The cut is among some 24 curriculum requirements dropped from the new measure, along with studying Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, the works of United Farm Workers leader Cesar Chavez, Susan B. Anthony's writings about the women's suffragist movement, and Native American history. Critics say the state is promoting an anti-civics education. Senate Bill 3, passed last Friday, 18-4, drops the most mentions of people of color and women from the state's required curriculum. That includes eliminating a requirement that students be taught the history of white supremacy, including, but not limited to, the institution of slavery, the eugenics movement, and the Ku Klux Klan, and the ways in which it is morally wrong. The measure slices out more curriculum requirements from an already restrictive Texas education law, and passed last month as part of conservatives' fear-mongering about critical race theory, a framework for studying institutional racism that is rarely taught in K-12 schools. The term CRT is not explicitly mentioned in either the law that passed or its this current Senate bill. So, and of course now, HuffPo is going to go back and praise the 1619 Project and how horrible white supremacy is. Let's actually go in and look and see what's in this bill. So this, I didn't go and Google this separately. This is the citation that the Huffington Post brought forward. This is what they are citing for this. Texas Bill, SB 3, engrossed version. A bill to be enacted, an act, relating to certain curriculum in public schools, including certain instructional requirements and prohibitions. Civics Training Program, to facilitate the teaching of curriculum consistent with sections 28.02 and 28.0022, the Commissioner shall develop and make available civics training courses for teachers and administrators. A civics training program developed under the section must include training in the essential knowledge of skills for the social studies curriculum related to civic knowledge adopted under section 28.002. Guided classroom discussions, classroom simulations, media literacy, including instruction on verifying information and sources, identifying and responding to logical fallacies, and identifying propaganda as appropriate for this grade level, and consistent with the restrictions under section 28.002. Okay, let's skim through this and see if we can find where they specifically mention the Ku Klux Klan. From funds available, so that's how they fund it. The Commissioner may delay, that's page 2. We're on 3. Okay, nothing in the section may be construed as limiting the teaching or instruction in the essential knowledge and skills adopted under subsection Chapter A, Education Code. Let's see. In adopting the essential knowledge and skills for the social studies curriculum for each grade level from kindergarten through grade 12, the State Board of Education shall adopt essential knowledge and skills that develop each student's civic knowledge, including an understanding of the fundamental moral, political, entrepreneurial, and intellectual foundations of the American experiment in self-government, the history, qualities, traditions, and features of civic engagement in the U.S., the structure, function, and processes of government institutions at the federal, state, and local levels, the founding documents of the U.S., including the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, Federalist Papers, excerpts from Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America, transcript of the first Lincoln-Douglas debate, the writings of founding fathers of the U.S., the history and importance of the Federal Civil Rights Act, the 13th, 14th, and 19th Amendments, so far, this doesn't seem like this is striking anything. In fact, it seems to be strengthening everything else from this. The complexity of the historic relationship between Texas and Mexico, the diversity of the Hispanic population in Texas, the ability to analyze and determine the reliability of information sources, formulate and articulate reasoned positions, understand the manner in which local, state, and federal government works, and operates through the use of simulations and models of governmental and democratic processes. Actively listen and engage in civil discourse, including discourse with those different viewpoints. Responsibly participate as citizens in constitutional democracy and effectively engage with governmental institutions at the local, state, and federal levels, and an appreciation of the importance and responsibility of participating in civic life. A commitment to the United States and its form of government. Ron, you missed that lesson somewhere. A commitment to free speech and civil discourse. Nothing in subsections H2 and H7 may be construed as limiting the teaching or instruction in the essential knowledge and skills adopted under the subchapter. So far, so good. Here we go. Certain instructional requirements and prohibitions. A, for any course or subject, including an innovative course for grade level from kindergarten through grade 12, a teacher may not be compelled to discuss a particular current event or widely debated and currently controversial issue of public policy or social affairs. From the sounds of that, from section 1, it seems like the teacher still has the right to exercise to do so. I mean, they can't come in and tell the teacher, you have to talk about this particular debate and you have to talk about it in a certain way. A teacher who chooses to discuss a topic described by subdivision 1 shall, to the best of the teacher's ability, strive to explore that topic from a diverse and contending perspectives without giving deference to any one perspective. So you can't say orange man evil and white-haired man good. A school district, open enrollment, charter school, or teacher may not require, make part of a course or award a grade or course credit, including extra credit for a student's work for an affiliation. So basically, they can't give a grade for working for a campaign. or political activism. A teacher, administrator, or other employee of a state agency, school district, or open enrollment charter school may not require or make part of a course inculcation the concept that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. An individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of the individual's race or sex. An individual's moral character, standing, or worth is necessarily determined by the individual's race or sex. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, bears responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. An individual should feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish, or any form of psychological distress on account of individual's race or sex. Meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic are racist or sexist, or were created by members of a particular race to oppress members of another race. The advent of slavery in the territory that is now the U.S. constituted the true founding of the United States. With respect to their relationship to American values, slavery and racism are anything other than deviations from, betrayals of, or failures to live up to the authentic founding principles of the U.S., which include liberty and equality. Teach, instruct, or train any administrator, teacher, or staff of any state agency, school district, or open enrollment charter school to adopt a concept listed under paragraph A. I'll require an understanding of the 1619 Project. Subsection A3 may not be construed to apply to a student's participation in community charitable. Yeah, that's all the same thing. Let's see what else. We read all this. Section C is the same thing of before. You can't give a person a grade based on the fact that they went out and were an activist. Subsection D, a school district or open enrollment charter school may not implement, interpret, or enforce any rule, including standard provided student code of conduct adopted under section 37001 in a manner that would result in the punishment of a student for discussing concepts described in subsection A4 or have a chilling effect on a student discussions involving those concepts. So from the sounds of this bill, it sounds like the students can still discuss these things, but they can't be teacher sponsored. Like they can't be a part of the curriculum. We can still have the discussion amongst ourselves, though. Nothing in the section may be construed as limiting the teaching or instruction in the essential knowledge and skills. That's interesting. This bill said nothing about the KKK. This bill said nothing about the Martin Luther King speech. And this entire HuffPo article was propaganda. We just looked through the bill together. And it's in the Discord because I put it in there to cite with Seawall. This is a bill that denies the ability to teach the 1619 Project, but still gives a limited purview to discuss the issues that are within it. HuffPo, you are lying. The Huffington Post is lying. And like I said, this is not something that I took and Googled out or wrote myself. This is the link that is in the Huffington Post article. And if you want, this article is in the Discord. You can click on the article and click right there because that's where I got it from. Senate Bill 3, right there. There is nothing in this bill that prohibits the teaching that the Ku Klux Klan is wrong. You are lying. You are lying, and tell me if I am wrong. If I am wrong, read the same bill that I just read. Tell me if I am wrong in any way, shape, or stretch of the imagination. It's on record at this point. YouTube can shut us down, but we still got video on demand on both DLive and Twitch. So you can go back and see this. This is on record forever, or as long as the internet exists. I know this was all boring and a lot of legal speak off of this, but still, there it is in black and white. You go in here and you find a prohibition of reading Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Because it's all right there. All right, let's grab another one here. Liberals pounce on the death of unvaccinated pro-Trump local GOP official from coronavirus complications. From Carlos Garcia. A local Mass Republican figure who was reportedly unvaccinated died from severe complications of the coronavirus, and many on the left pounced on the news to mock her and ridicule other Trump supporters. Linda Zurin, 70, died on Friday night at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, according to the Cape Cod Times. Zurin was known as a staunch conservative and stalwart supporter of former President Trump. She also appeared to support the QAnon conspiracy theory. Her family said that Zurin had not been vaccinated when she contracted the virus. She had been in a coma and in a ventilator before she died. After news of her death reached social media, many on the left pounced to politicize her passing. On today's episode of I Don't Give a Fuck, Linda Zurin, an unvaccinated Trump supporter who spread coronavirus conspiracy theories, has died from COVID. Darwin strikes again. Anybody care? Responded an anti-Trump account. Don't worry, these people have the monopoly on compassion and kindness. They are directly to blame for people exposing others and for incalculable COVID spread. I'll laugh at every one of them for the tears others have shed for their lost loved ones, said another. Tough break, Linda Zurin. I know she's not the first unvaccinated Trump supporter to die from what she insisted was a hoax. She certainly won't be the last, and I guarantee Trump doesn't give a fuck and won't even send flowers at the funerals, responded another critic. Quoting Linda Zurin, Q follower, death from COVID, where we go one, we go all, COVID's Delta variant responds, that works for us. What a stupid, stupid tragedy. Yeah, these are the people who have the monopoly on kindness and compassion. Let's grab another one here. America Rising tweets, watch White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki admits the Biden-Harris administration has avoided disclosing additional breakthrough COVID cases among other White House staff. I'm interested.
Go ahead.
So I just want to back up here to this breakthrough case here at the White House. You confirmed today there's been a breakthrough case.
Yep.
But you're also confirming there have been other breakthrough cases.
Yep.
But you had not previously disclosed that there had been.
And that's correct. We had also committed during the transition that I think there's hundreds, thousands of people who work in the federal government, as you all know, and we had committed during the transition that if it was a commissioned officer, who are the highest level ranking people in the White House and in the in this building here, that we would make that information publicly available. We stand by that commitment.
So if it's anyone below that, you don't feel the need to let people know?
Well, again, that's the commitment we made. I'm here talking to all of you today and sharing with you information about the individual who was received a positive test yesterday.
Right. More.
Go ahead.
So I just.
All right. So yeah, and we're going to start to see a lot more of this here, and it's going to be propagandized. That's going to be the big thing. It's going to be propagandized to shut us back down again, which may be. And I've theorized this is going to the tinfoil level of this, but I have theorized that. One of the things that we're looking at right now is the fact that this is going to be used to shut us down and justify the overt inflation and possible failing economy that's coming out of the administration. But I don't know. But the Delta variant is coming, so you better go get your vaccine, even though the Delta variant doesn't affect the vaccinated, or it affects the vaccinated, or whatever the fucking narrative is. They flip-flop so goddamn much I can't even keep track anymore. Let's grab one from CNBC. Trump friend Tom Barrack charged with illegally lobbying then-President Trump on behalf of the United Arab Emirates. But don't worry, we're not going to be doing any political arrests. It's totally not political here. This is from Dan Mangan, Christina Wilkie, and Kevin Bräuninger. Thomas Barrack, a private equity investor who was a close friend of former President Trump, was arrested Tuesday morning in Los Angeles on federal charges of illegally lobbying Trump on behalf of the United Arab Emirates. Barrack, who was charged with two other men in a 7-count indictment in Brooklyn, New York federal court, was chairman of Trump's 2017 inaugural fund. Barrack was ordered and detained in Los Angeles pending a bail hearing next Monday. The Santa Monica, California resident is accused with the other defendants of secretly advancing the interests of the UAE at the direction of senior officials of that country by influencing the foreign policy positions of Trump's 2016 campaign and then those positions of the U.S. government during Trump's presidency through April of 2018. Barrick, who never registered with the American government as an agent of the UAE, is also charged with obstruction of justice and making multiple false statements during a June 2019 interview with federal law enforcement agencies. The indictment noted that Barrick, 74, during the time covered by the indictment, informally advised American officials on Middle East policy and also sought appointment to senior role in the U.S. government, including as a special envoy to the Middle East. The evidence against Barrick includes thousands of emails, text messages, iCloud records, flight records, and other social media records. Prosecutors separately said in a detention memo. Prosecutors said the evidence of Barrick's guilt in this case is overwhelming. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just keep doing this over and over again. Prosecutors also said that Barrick had met with and assisted senior leaders of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is a close UAE ally, and that he had provided the UAE government officials with sensitive non-public information about developments within the admin, including information about the positions of multiple senior U.S. government officials with respect to Qatari blockade conducted by the UAE and other Middle Eastern countries. Charged with Barrick are Matthew Grimes of Aspen and a 43-year-old UAE national, Rashid Sultan Rashid Al Malik Al Shahi, who remains at large. Dude, I think the DMV hates that fucking dude. I'm sorry. Can you fit that on a driver's license size card? The credit card companies too. Oh my God. Grimes, who worked directly for Barack at the Barack-founded private equity firm Colony Capital, was arrested in California and detained pending a bail hearing next Monday. Yeah, but they're totally not going after political enemies by this point. I mean, what do we have here? Failing to register as a federal agent. That's all that I see coming out of this. Illegal lobbying. Is there a law for illegal lobbying? Because all that I can see here is failing to register as a federal agent. But they've got something, and the evidence is overwhelming. He's going to roll over on Trump. We're going to see what the end of the criminal empire is. We're going to find out how Russian operatives and Putin really own the Trump presidency. He's going to turn over. We're going to see the tax returns. They're going to go down to Mar-a-Lago with chains and manacles and drag him out of there. Yeah, prepare for another fucking 3 weeks of that bullshit. This is interesting, actually. Scottergate tweets out, did you guys know that SCOTUS refused to take on Baronelle Stutzman's case last week, which means the government destroyed her life because of her religious beliefs? You may not have known because the conservative gatekeepers were too busy being outraged at TPUSA. And I will admit, I actually did miss this one. So we're going to talk about this. This is a couple weeks old, but I want to go briefly over this. Supreme Court spurns bid from Washington florist who declined to make arrangement for gay wedding. From Melissa Quinn. The Supreme Court on Friday turned away an appeal from a florist in Washington state who declined to make an arrangement for a gay couple's wedding because of her religious beliefs, spurring another legal battle that pits religious freedom against LGBTQ rights. I think you can truncate the L's / son of. Oh, the dude's long fucking name. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure the credit card thing is still, companies still hate that dude. I'm like, what are you talking about, the L's and son of? Oh, that's what it is. The guy with the long, long name. In declining to hear the case of Baronelle Stutzman, the owner of Arlene's Flowers, the High Court leaves in place a lower court ruling that found she violated a state civil rights law that bars discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. 3 of the court's conservative justices, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch, said they would have heard the case. Stutzman's case was the latest to land before the justices that pits religious liberty against LGBTQ rights. In rejecting the case, the High Court leaves unanswered the question of whether business owners who cite their religious beliefs can refuse service for same-sex weddings despite the state's anti-discrimination laws. And yet we still find same-sex couples who are seeking out specifically these Christian-owned businesses to try to get them up there so they can get a quick buck off a lawsuit off of it. We've got to find some way to put a fucking stop to that. Like, I don't care, really, honestly. I think everybody should be able to deny service to anybody, regardless of anything at this point, even if it's racist. Not because I think that racism is cool or anything, but because, really, honestly, if the racists come out and start denying service to black people, the word's going to get around quick, and those businesses are not going to last. I mean, there's those 12 people in Alabama that I always cite that they'll probably go to that business, but everybody else is going to be like, dude, I don't want the headache of being associated with doing business with this dude. I'm going to go down the street to this guy. He's a little bit more expensive, but he'll let gay people come into his ammo shop. The Supreme Court said in a unanimous decision that the city of Philadelphia was wrong to end its foster care contract with Catholic services because it refused to work. To work with same-sex couples. Stutzman asked the Supreme Court to hear the case in 2017. In 2018, the justices sent it back to a lower court in light of its ruling in a dispute involving Colorado baker Jack Phillips, who refused to bake a wedding cake for a gay couple. In that narrow decision, the High Court ruled in favor of the baker, saying Colorado Civil Rights Commission was hostile to Phillips' faith and did not act neutrally towards his religion. So, yeah, that would be an interesting way to come back and figure this out, is to actually get one of these in front of the Supreme Court and, uphold the sign. We refuse the right to serve. We reserve the right, rather, not refuse the right. We reserve the right to refuse service to anybody. And yeah, if you start refusing service to the wrong people, your business is not going to be up for very long. The free market will decide that. I know that the free market makes the people on the left very uncomfortable, but the free market will decide that. Oh, Fanning. I just caught that out of the corner of my eye. Sorry, I caught that out of the corner of my eye there for a sec. Those 12 people in Alabama don't have teeth. No cake for them. All right. Let's keep going here. I've got one from Washington Blade, which surprisingly, them and like the Blaze Daily Wire, Glenn Beck and Neocon fucking crew were the only people reporting on this, and I thought this was interesting. I can't believe more mainstreamers didn't jump on this one. California Appellate Court rules the trans pronoun law violates freedom of speech. Jordan Peterson was right. I'm sure that's why the mainstreams aren't doing that, because that's a thought that makes them very uncomfortable. By staff reports. The State of California 3rd District Court of Appeals ruled on Friday that a state statute requiring nursing home staff to use the correct pronouns for trans and non-binary patients is a freedom of speech violation. Dude. Now, the trans community, it's growing, and we could have the conversation about rapid onset gender dysphoria. We could have that conversation on whether or not it's valid or not. But transsexual people, from what I understand, are like 0.25% of the population. If that. It might actually be a little bit more of that, but I don't even think it's a full 1%. And that's because we have Zoomers and Millennials who are just looking to have something trendy go on with that, included in that group. How many people in the nursing home does this actually affect? 1? Maybe 2? In all of the United States? The people in the nursing home are waving the fucking cane and saying, Sonny, get off my lawn with that pronoun crap, alright? The court, in a unanimous 3-0 decision, struck down this key provision of the LGBTQ Long-Term Care Facility Residents' Bill of Rights. created by SB 219 in 2017, authored by Senator Scott Wiener, because it couldn't be anybody else, and sponsored by Equality California. The court upheld the provision in the law that requires nursing homes to place transgender patients in rooms that match their gender identity. All 2 of them. The court's decision is disconnected from reality facing transgender people. Deliberately misgendering a transgender person isn't just a matter of opinion. It's not simply disrespectful, discourteous, or insulting. Rather, it's straight-up harassment, and it erases an individual's fundamental humanity, particularly one as vulnerable as a trans senior in a nursing home. This misguided decision cannot be allowed to stand, Senator Wiener said in a statement. Yeah, this one's going to the Supreme Court. This one is going to the Supreme Court. But realistically, the fact that a California court in a 3-0 came to this decision tells me, yeah, this is probably a violation of the First Amendment. So, yeah, I thought that was entertaining. Penny, you're on fire today. You've caught my attention twice just out of the corner of my eye. All right, let's talk about Fauci and Rand from the Hill. Fauci. Paul doesn't know what he's talking about. From Nathaniel Weissel. Senator Rand Paul on Tuesday escalated his ongoing feud with the nation's top infectious disease doctor, Anthony Fauci, St. Anthony of Fauci, the patron saint of medicine, about his role in the National Institutes of Health played in funding the controversial research in Wuhan, China. The 2 traded barbs during a tense exchange, triggering a shouting match, which Fauci accused Paul of lying in order to further his agenda. During a Senate Health Committee hearing about the federal COVID-19 response, Paul said the NIH funded illegal gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Created highly dangerous and transmissible virus to infect humans, gain-of-function is a controversial method where researchers make a pathogen more infectious, often to develop a more effective treatments and vaccines. We might run out of time again today, because I still got quite a few over here, plus thing I like, thing I hate. And it's 8:55, and I still got to go to work. Let's get through the Rand Fauci thing and see where we're at. Because I think some of this other stuff we can save this. Yeah, we can. I think most of the stuff we can do tomorrow, unless they dump a whole bunch of news on us again. But now, it's an unsubstantiated accusation Paul's made before, and one Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, has denied. It's unsubstantiated. Okay? We found the evidence that it's being funded over there. It's not unsubstantiated anymore. It's only unsubstantiated because they're going after the patron saint of medicine, St. Anthony of Fauci. This is Fauci going after Paul, because they're not going to go the other direction. It's the Hill. But we do have some stuff going the other direction as well. Let's listen to this, though.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress.
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans,
right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get
NIH,
one person.
Let's read from the NIH
Chair, can I
definition of
answer
gain
the
of
question?
function. This is your definition.
So, yeah, that's the 2 of them. And of course they cut it's the recount, so they cut that in a way that sounds absolutely like Fauci just slams down on Rand Paul. Let's listen. We're not going to go through the entire 6-minute portion of this, but let's go with this one. Actually, let me do this one. 1st, Rand Paul says he'll be sending a criminal referral letter to the DOJ about Fauci. Let's grab this one, then we'll take a section of this other one here, and I think that's where we're going to have to call it for the day. Yeah, let's do that.
You kicked off your questioning of Dr. Fauci, emphasizing federal law makes lying to Congress a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Is it your belief, based on the evidence, Senator, that he lied before Congress and broke the law?
Yes, and I will be sending a letter to the Department of Justice asking for a criminal referral because he has lied to Congress.
Okay, where the fuck do you think that's actually going to go? In a Merrick Garland DOJ. Explain that to me, Lucy. All right, let's grab an extended version of this clip here. Let's have a listen to what actually went on here. There's 6 minutes. We'll see how far we get into it.
Dr. Fauci, as you are aware, it is a crime to lie to Congress. Section 1001 of the U.S. Criminal Code creates a felony and a 5-year penalty for lying to Congress. On your last trip to our committee on May 11th, you stated that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And yet, gain-of-function research was done entirely in the Wuhan Institute by Dr. Shi and was funded by the NIH. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the Wuhan virology paper entitled Discovery of a Rich Gene Pool of Bat SARS-Related Coronaviruses. Please deliver a copy of the journal article to Dr. Fauci. In this paper, Dr. Shi credits the NIH and lists the actual number of the grant that she was given by the NIH. In this paper, she took 2 bat coronavirus genes, spike genes, and combined them with a SARS-related backbone to create new viruses that are not found in nature. These lab-created viruses were then shown to replicate in humans. These experiments combined genetic information from different coronaviruses that infect animals but not humans to create novel artificial viruses able to infect human cells. Viruses that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans. This research fits the definition of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 to 2017, a pause in funding on gain of function. But the NIH failed to recognize this, defines it away, and it never came under any scrutiny. Dr. Richard E. Bright, a molecular biologist from Rutgers, described this research in Wuhan as the Wuhan lab used NIH funding to construct novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses able to infect human cells and laboratory animals. This is high-risk research that creates new potential pandemic pathogens that exist only in the lab, not in nature. This research matches, these are Dr. E. Bright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research, done entirely in Wuhan, for which there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function.
So
let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans, right. You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get
NIH,
one person.
Let's read from the NIH definition of gain of function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals. is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals, and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's let Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2, that's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a minute.
If it did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, it is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It
no
is
one is
molecularly.
alleging that those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That is
you can't
not.
Get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth.
Senator
You are the
Paul's
one.
time is expired, but I will allow the witness to.
Let me just finish. I want everyone to understand that if you look at those viruses, and that's judged by qualified virologists and evolutionary biologists, those viruses are molecularly impossible to result in SARS-CoV-2.
Those viruses caused the pandemic.
Senator Paul,
we're saying they are gain-of-function viruses because they were animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And you
admit the truth.
And you implying.
Senator Paul, your time has expired, and I will allow witnesses who come before this committee.
Okay, so we did wind up watching pretty much the entire clip. But yeah, I mean, they can sit back and they can yell at each other forever. Nothing is going to happen out of this. Realistically, it's not. It's good for entertaining. It's good for making bazinga clips that both sides can come back and use. And, you know, people can say, oh, Rand Paul owned Anthony Fauci. And Anthony Fauci owned Rand Paul. Because, you know everybody's going to just retreat back into their corners and go from there. But realistically, until we actually get something coming out here that shows where the gain-of-function research is, we're not going to see anything come back out of this, except for people yelling back and forth at each other. All right, that is it. That's all I have for news. We will catch up with the rest of this tomorrow, including Bezos and Louisiana Senate, which I want to touch on just a little bit, and some Olympic drama that's going on as well. So we'll catch up on all that. But before we get out of here, we're going to do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate and head out of here. And I think most of you who follow me on Twitter already know what the thing that I like is going to be, because I finished out my promise to Elaine. I took a month off from streaming services, and I got caught up in the book series from Star Trek, the Gods of Night book series, which we talked about on Things That I Like a few weeks ago. We have at this point, we talked about that, and I'm back to streaming services, and I promised that the next program that I watched on streaming services was going to be The Mandalorian. And that is the thing that I like. I am a little bit sad that I waited as long as I did to watch The Mandalorian, because it's really good. I'm probably maybe halfway through the second season at this point. It was amazing. This is the IMDb page for The Mandalorian. It does look like we are getting a season 3. I don't know if Carano is going to be on there. Carano's fucking hot. I'm sorry. Gina Carano is absolutely gorgeous. The story is great. There's a lot of drama going in there. You don't always know what's going to happen from some of this stuff. You know, some of the plot holes you can look, or not plot holes, but some of the plots you can look at and say, they're going to betray him. And you can see that coming from a mile away. But they do still tend to surprise you off of this. It's very well written. I mean, you can take the Star Wars away from this. Or at least as far as I've seen. I know that now we're getting into some of the Jedi stuff. But you could have taken the Star Wars away from this and still had a great story. An incredible story. You could have put any other sci-fi in place of this and adapted the characters as such and still had an incredible story. Because the story elements they still stay and they still sit. Yes, it's cool to see the nostalgia of it. It's cool to see, like, the Boba Fett armor that got pulled out of the Sarlacc. It's cool to see the Sand People again. It's cool to see the next of the Yoda generation. It's cool to see all that, but really, realistically, this was a fantastic story. I can't say enough good things about this. There's no trailer on the IMDb page, which is weird because they usually have a big one up there and I usually play it. But yeah, if you've got access to Disney Plus or you know somebody that has Disney Plus and you haven't seen this yet, go ask that person to go and borrow their Disney Plus or get it yourself because all the classics are on there too. And I don't usually advocate for buying Disney product either. But just for this, borrow somebody else's or go and grab it yourself and go watch this one. This one holds up. The Mandalorian over on Disney Plus. Absolutely go and have a check on it. It was fantastic. Now for a thing that I hate. Thing that I hate today comes to us via Reuters today. Branding the U.S. Left AOC makes a push into political merchandise. I have got to get the tweet for this. I really do. And I'll pull it off my profile because I couldn't believe this. This woman is dumb beyond dumb. Where is it? 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 There it is. Let's grab this one and bring that one, drag this one over here too. So, reading from the article, Jason Lang writes, U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, the Honorable and Venerable, of course, became one of America's most prominent progressive Democrats, with her calls to tax the wealthy and spend heavily to fight climate change. Now she is investing heavily in her online store, selling t-shirts, sweatshirts, and other merch with her name, AOC initials, which I thought was racist or sexist to use, or slogans including tax the rich and fight for our future, efforts aimed at both fundraising and building the second-term lawmaker's profile nationally. Her campaign paid political merchandise firm Financial Innovations, which operates her online store and supplies merchandise more than $1.4 million in the first 6 months of 2021, according to campaign disclosures to the Federal Election Commission late last week. That is more than any lawmaker spent on their entire re-election efforts during the period, and nearly double her payments made over the prior 2 years to Financial Innovations, a Cranston, Rhode Island firm that specializes in political merchandise for Democrats. Which means that they get a whole bunch of fucking money to spread socialism. Ironic, isn't it? Political t-shirts and campaign swag were once a rarity on American streets, the sign of campaign volunteer politics junkies. That changed markedly over the last 6 years as Trump supporters adopted his trademark red Make America Great Again cap. In addition to raising a candidate's profile and standing as a badge of identity in an increasingly polarized nation, political merchandise is a small but significant fundraising tool. Yes, using capitalism to spread socialism. Now, this is not the only reason that I hate this. Don't get me wrong, I fucking hate this. This is the dumbest fucking thing in the world. But we're going to back up through this thread a little bit before we get to here. So, Sean Spicer finds this article and he tweets it back out. This was a couple days ago. Using capitalism to push socialism, branding the U.S. left. AOC makes a push into political merchandise. And she said it. She actually said it. She actually said this. Are you ready? Are you ready to see what it is that she actually said? Because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that she could be this fucking dumb. Not sure if you know this, Sean, but transactions aren't capitalism, Poppy. Capitalism is a system that prioritizes profit at any and all human/enviro cost. But for what it doesn't operate for profit and funds projects like free tutoring, food programs, and local organizing. Yeah, no, this is the thing. Transactions aren't capitalism. And of course, we can go over the argument that capitalism is just a pejorative term that was coined by Marxists to demonize the absence of a system, the free market capitalism. But regardless, the basis of a free market system is transactions. I have all these coconuts and I can't eat them all, but I really need a pair of shoes. Hey, I have a pair of shoes that I don't need, and I need coconuts to eat. Here, have some of my coconuts, and I will have your extra pair of shoes. That's capitalism. That's a transaction. So that's what I see here. That's where it's going. All right, let's throw some music up and head out of here for the day. So those of you over on Twitch, stick around. We're going to go check out my friend Stephen Ignoramus, who is, I believe, streaming right now. So we'll go and check him out and give him the raid here. But we're going to head out of here for the day here. So thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. All the lurkers, all the listeners, all the people who are detractors, and all the people who are supporters. Everybody's welcome here. We do welcome difference of opinion. We just don't welcome doxing or outright harassment. So, thanks everybody who came by and chatted out with that. We will be back here tomorrow morning bright and early for more contemporary. And we'll go and check out Stephen Ignoramus, so stick around for that. Until then, you guys, take care. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.